The actress Rebel Wilson has been awarded more than $4.5 million in damages in the biggest defamation payout in Australian history. The judge delivered a stinging attack on the publishers of Women's Day magazine for knowingly printing lies about her in a deliberate campaign to boost their own profits. It'll send a shiver through all dodgy sections of the media.
Hello, I'm Paul Barry. Welcome to Media Watch. And is it game over for trash mags and gossip columnists? Rebel Wilson last week smashed all defamation records with a payout that could reach $7 million when legal costs are added. So, what exactly was the crime? Well, back in June, a jury of 6 women found Wilson was viciously defamed by a series of articles in Bauer media magazines, which Justice Dixon told the court
had branded Ms Wilson a serial liar who had fabricated almost every aspect of her life.
Bauer's assault on our homegrown Hollywood star began in May 2015 with this double-page splash in Women's Day.
Just who is the real rebel?
She's clearly got a vivid imagination, laughs our source. Maybe you have to tell stories to make it in Hollywood.
Women's Day falsely accused Wilson of lying about her name, age, parents and upbringing. Yet reporter Sharon Nemensic had relied on just one anonymous informant who was paid for the story and who had an axe to grind. Emails read out in court revealed that Nemensic and Editor-in-Chief Fiona Connolly were not convinced the claims were true and spiked the story for legal reasons. But when Rebel got a lead role in Pitch Perfect 2, the temptation to cash in became too much and the article got the go-ahead. In awarding aggravated and special damages 4 times the previous record, Justice Dixon told the court,
"The damage suffered by Ms Wilson warrants a substantial damages award to vindicate her and nail the lie."
Hours after that first story was published, the Women's Weekly did an online follow-up by Caroline Overington, who's now an associate editor at The Australian.
The truth about Rebel Wilson. If she did lie about her name and age, I'm one of the people she lied to about it.
And this story, said Justice Dixon, merited special mention because the jury concluded
it conveyed that Ms Wilson is so untrustworthy that nothing she says about herself can be taken to be true.
3 months earlier, Overington had written a glowing profile of Wilson in the Women's Weekly. But she was now convinced Rebel had lied to her. And while she had no evidence, except the Women's Day story, and the jury found she was wrong, she refused to back down.
Ms Overington did not apologise or retract any statement she had made.
The Overington article was another reason the judge felt aggravated damages were deserved.
Publicly branding a person as a serial liar and so untrustworthy that nothing she says about herself can be taken to be true unless it has been independently corroborated was an extremely serious thing to put against the plaintiff, not just without a legitimate basis, as the jury verdict made clear, but with malice.
And the judge's criticism of the now senior News Corp journalist did not stop there, because having publicly accused Rebel of lying,
Ms Overington then sent a series of insulting and harassing messages to members of Ms Wilson's family, her American agent and the Disney Corporation. This, too, further aggravated Ms Wilson's damages.
Surprisingly, this important aspect of the case, which added to the payout, did not rate a mention in the Australian's coverage of the judgment, although a couple of readers did see fit to comment.
Caroline Overington was given a red-hot rev by Dixon J for her part in smearing Rebel's reputation.
And so she was. But what about the future? Will the threat of a $7 million penalty be a game-changer for trash mags that use unnamed sources or even make stuff up for stories like these?
Delta and Carl's secret love. I'm having twins too.
Back with Brian.
But Mariah's drunk dialing Packer.
Till now, the mags have assumed that celebrities don't sue and won't win much if they do, because Australian law caps damages at $250,000. But that's all changed. Rebel's win shows the sky is the limit if the magazine's behaviour aggravates the insult or causes a celebrity to lose millions of dollars in earnings. As Kerry Packer's magazine maestro Nene King observed last week,
I would be very nervous if I was an editor today. I think it will make the editors really think about not putting Nicole Kidman on the cover 1 week pregnant, then the next week breaking up with Keith Urban, and then pregnant again in the 3rd week.
But how will we live without stories like that? Yes, it won't be hard. Or indeed without stories like this, although there's far less chance of product puffs like this one on 7 Sunrise ever disappearing.
It's the collection that's got everyone blushing. Kmart's Scandinavian range has without a doubt been a hit. One of the hottest items that sent everyone into a frenzy, this Scandinavian shoe rack that is just $35. It's been so popular, there's no more stock.
Yes, it may look and sound like an ad, but it's actually a news story, or at least one prepared by a journalist. And it's one of half a dozen on TV recently singing the praises of Kmart's products. But there's more, because we've counted at least 30 similar plugs in online news sites for this fabulous Kmart vacuum, or this bikini bag, or this beach trolley. And there's an even bigger frenzy on social media.
Kmart's new Scandi-inspired $35 shoe rack just broke social media.
Guys, Kmart have done it again. The saviour of bargain hunters and stingy home decor lovers alike has literally broken the internet with a shoe rack that's not even out yet.
All the Kmart stories trace back to Facebook and Instagram and groups of mothers, some of whom are invited to private viewings of Kmart products so they'll post about the store's new range. As Lani Lawrence, founder of Kmart Mums and Shopping for My Tribe, with a total of 238,000 followers, told Media Watch,
They flew me to Melbourne along with 30 influencers from all over Australia, even from New Zealand as well, and got to this beautiful house decorated in the Kmart range.
Of course, it is fabulous free publicity. But how does Kmart get it? If you believe the media, it's just because those mums love the products. But last week, a current affair gave the game away.
Australia's Kmart Army. Meet the mums who've become foot soldiers for some of our biggest retailers, making a mozza from spruiking products and even telling you what you should buy.
So far I've been gifted approximately $60,000 worth of goods, and that's purely just for doing posts.
She's made how much? And just for posting about stuff she likes?
You've got hundreds of thousands of followers, you can charge thousands of dollars.
Kmart insists it does not pay bloggers and influencers, but it does give them vouchers with suggestions on what to buy and plug. And it is not alone.
Okay, so Target each month they'll email me and they'll give me a bit of a brief and a rundown what they'd like to promote. This month, for argument's sake, we're focusing on homewares and bedding.
And Target obviously gives you a voucher to execute that look.
They do, correct. They'll send me the voucher. I'll go to the store with my brief in hand.
So these ordinary mums are not only paid in kind, they're told what products to push. The mainstream media then give it an extra shove and spread the message to millions. And Kmart effectively gets TV and online ads for free. Amazing, eh? But that's what nowadays can pass for news. And it's unlikely to change anytime soon, not even after the biggest media law reform in decades.
The media landscape is set for a massive shake-up after the Senate this evening passed major changes to ownership laws. It means the country's biggest media companies could get even bigger, with owners such as the Murdoch family able to snap up more of their rivals.
Yes, it's taken years to arrive, but it has finally happened. Australian media laws have caught up with the internet, and most of the rules are now out of the window.
The 2 out of 3 rule goes, so media companies can own newspapers, radio and TV in the same market. The 75% reach rule gone too, and anti-siphoning rules tweaked, but major sports are remaining on free-to-air television.
Sporting rights aside, just about anyone can now bid for just about anything, and the big media players are thrilled. And before you could say bingo, Murdoch was back in the battle for Channel 10.
Just hours after media reforms passed the Senate, Lachlan Murdoch and Bruce Gordon lodged a fresh bid for Network 10 on Friday, increasing their offer for creditors of the troubled broadcaster from $35 million to $55 million.
3 weeks ago, 10's administrators, Corda Mentha, accepted a bid from the US giant CBS. But they may now try to unstitch that deal. We'll see how it plays out at tomorrow's creditors' meeting. But it could get messy. And what other action might we see?
Options including 9 merging with Fairfax, or 7 taking over regional partner Prime.
Or Fairfax merging with 7, which is also being discussed. But just because they can doesn't mean to say they will, according to Fusion Strategies' Steve Allen, because the revenue outlook is bleak and there is little fat to cut.
We do not think there will be a rash of takeovers. We don't think most media assets are being badly run at the moment.
Nor do the rules allow completely open slather. Some control remains.
There will still be a limit of owning one television network per city and 2 radio stations per city, and the communications regulator will seek to maintain at least 5 different voices in big cities and 4 voices in regional cities.
But TV, radio and print could now get crunched into 2 or 3 mega media groups, and not everyone reckons that's a great idea. Labor was never a supporter, and nor were the Greens.
What we're going to get is we're going to get a further concentration in the media market here in Australia, and that's a bad thing. We want more voices in the media, not fewer voices.
And writing in The Guardian, Professor Margaret Simons was also downbeat.
The new media ownership law doesn't address the real crisis journalism is facing.
Simons is worried about too much gossip and too many Kmart plugs. But thanks to Nick Xenophon, who sold his support to get this package through, there is a little something.
For the first time, the government acknowledges the need for commercial media to be assisted through these very challenging times of transition. A $60 million fund, $50 million for small and regional publishers, 200 cadetships.
So, who will get the money and how much difference will it make? Newsrooms with less than $30 million turnover can apply for up to $1 million in cash to be spent on so-called civic and investigative journalism. There will also be rebates of $40,000 a year for employing junior journalists, but just for 2 years. It is pretty modest stuff, and few will get a look in, because Australia's top 25 newspapers by circulation are all too big for the $1 million grants, and foreign mastheads are also excluded, even if they need money and are based here, like The Guardian, whose editor Lenore Taylor claims they were targeted.
Privately, the government was frank. The foreign parent company veto was aimed at Guardian Australia.
Also out are papers linked to super funds, which excludes the New Daily, whose editor Bruce Guthrie told Media Watch the changes would not do much for journalism or journalists, and added,
Ultimately, this seems to have been more about politics than good public policy, in that the changes appear to reward political friends and punish perceived enemies.
However, outfits like the Saturday paper, the Monthly, Crikey and The Conversation should all be eligible, and so should independent regional publishers like the Mornington Peninsula News Group, which runs 5 community papers in Victoria. And publisher Cameron McCulloch says it could make a big difference.
It would mean viability. If we did get some sort of grant, it's as simple as putting on an extra journalist or 2.
But by our reckoning, many almost will miss out, and that will limit the good it can do. And in the meantime, there is still the ABC, where One Nation's demands for an inquiry, which was the price of their support, are to be dealt with in a separate bill that may or may not go through. We'll see what happens. Watch this space. And finally, here is a question. How much would you pay to have your own TV show? Do I hear $4 million? Well, believe it or not, that's what members of CPA Australia, one of our top accounting bodies, forked out to have their boss host In Conversation with Alex Malley on Channel 9, in which the eponymous accountant interviewed a motley collection of people like The Fonz, Lane Beachley, and Nine's own Deborah Knight and Laurie Oakes. Riveting TV! But many CPA members were not so thrilled. 3 months ago, Malley was booted from his job, with a huge payoff, after hundreds objected to his self-aggrandising expenditure. And an investigation has now revealed that his TV ego trip cost members $4.16 million in 2015 and 2016. This included $1.2 million spent on advertising Malley and his show to the public, on trams in Melbourne, for example, and more on Malley and his book on billboards in New York City.
If you dream big, great things happen.
We asked Nine last year how much CPA was paying the network to make Malley a star, but they wouldn't say. And nor would CPA. We also asked how and why Malley had scored a regular spot on Weekend Today to pass comment on stars like Jared Hayne, Michael Phelps and Usain Bolt.
Tell us a bit about Usain Bolt's upbringing, his early life in Jamaica.
And a marketing machine. Who gets called Bolt when you're the fastest man in the world?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, how good's that?
Nine told us Malley's role was, quote, based on merit and audience engagement, and had nothing to do with CPA spending millions of dollars with the network. But, strangely, Malley was dumped from the role shortly after his CPA-funded In Conversation came to an end. So, for the moment, his TV career is on hold. And you can read more about tonight's stories on our Facebook page or our website. You can also catch the show on iView. And contact me or Media Watch on Twitter. And make sure not to miss Media Bites every Thursday. But for now, until next week, that's it from us. Goodbye.